Hey everybody, Dave Littlejohn here. We're going to try something a little different this week. Rather than the weekly wrap-up, which folks have kind of said is like, we're going to go with the question of the week. And so we're starting with questions that we've been fielding for a long time now, and you're welcome to submit questions and we'll be happy to get to them in order. So if you'd like to send a question, send it to info@littlejohnfs.com. This week's question is, what is an index fund? Well, you know, it's interesting. There are a few parts to that question. First, we need to know what a fund is. In this case, we're talking about mutual funds. If you're unfamiliar with a mutual fund, think of it simply as a pooled investment. Imagine if you had a company who was in the business of taking you and all of your friends, pooling money together, and then using that pool of money to go out and buy investments on your behalf. Where you might normally not have enough money to go and buy a diversified portfolio because it just costs too much. You know, if you're talking about some stocks over $1,000 per share and say you only have $1,000 to invest, well, clearly you wouldn't be diversified buying one share of one company. But in a mutual fund, those pooled funds are able to then go buy a diversified portfolio and you get proportionate ownership with everybody else. Of course, to do this costs a little money, right? The company has to assemble a fund product. It has to go through the regulatory process and so forth. So it does have an expense associated with it, commonly known as the expense ratio. How much of your money is going to pay the company to produce this fund? Well, that expense ratio becomes a subject of much discussion because some mutual funds have very high expenses, and as a result, the amount of the investment return that you keep after expenses ends up being lower. Well, enter the concept of the index fund. Rather than hiring a fund company to put a whole team of analysts in place and try to outperform the market through good investment decisions, instead they simply say, what if we just followed the formula? And so, for example, an index might be something like the S&P 500. Well, we'll just buy all 500 stocks the same as the index. Well, you don't really need a lot of a management team to make that kind of decision. You just need the personnel in place to manage the computer software and to then get the exchanges done and make sure that it looks like the S&P 500. That's a much lower price point. You know, but you don't have all that overhead of a fund. So indexes are really popular for that. There are a couple things that you should know about an index. One, don't expect to outperform an index when buying an index, because obviously if it's the index fund minus a small expense, you're going to slightly underperform by whatever that expense ratio is. Okay? And the other is, don't expect to outperform the index because you are the index, right? It's kind of a duh statement, but hey, it's worth saying. If you are looking to try to outperform the index, which is oftentimes challenging, then you're going to need to use active management or some other decision process besides the index to do so. But as a building block to get started in an investment strategy, these are often very useful. So that's why they exist in most cases, is to provide you with this low-cost, easy-to-map block of investments, right? So why try to beat the S&P? I can be the S&P at a very low price point. Okay, so that's what an index is for. They can be utilized with other tools. Many people will pair indexes with other investments, what we would call core and satellite or similar strategies, but that's really going to get into a question for another day. So if you've got other questions, like I said, hit us up at info@littlejohnfs.com. You can go to our website, which is littlejohnfs.com. We're on social media. Obviously, you've got the video here, so comment in the tab below, like, share, all that good stuff, and let us know, what would you like to hear? So anyway, this has been the question of the week, and until next time, this is David Littlejohn, and we'll catch you later.